The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. They were made of 7 ancient species who believed they were better than everyone else. To them, humans were nothing. Humans had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. The Council looked at humans the same way a person might look at an ant. They were small. They were weak. They did not matter. This was the biggest mistake the Council ever made. Lily Carter was 9 years old. She had brown hair that she liked to wear in 2 braids. She loved to read books about space adventures. She loved her father more than anything in the world. Her father, Nathan Carter, was a trader who traveled between planets selling goods. He took Lily with him everywhere because her mother had died when Lily was very young. They were a team, father and daughter, against the universe. On that terrible day, they arrived at Velos Station. It was a massive space station that floated in the darkness like a silver city. Thousands of aliens lived there. Humans were allowed to visit, but they had to follow many rules. Nathan had warned Lily to stay close to him. He had warned her not to touch anything. He had warned her that some places were not for humans, but Lily was 9 years old. 9-year-old children sometimes forget warnings. She saw the pools first. They were beautiful. The water glowed with soft blue light. Strange flowers floated on the surface. Lily had never seen anything so pretty in her whole life. She walked toward them without thinking. She just wanted to look. She just wanted to see the flowers up close. She did not see the sign that said the pools were sacred. She did not know that only council species were allowed near them. She did not understand that she was doing anything wrong. The Valoran guard saw her immediately. His name was Kethfer, and he was tall, with skin that looked like white crystal. His eyes were cold and empty like a frozen lake. He did not see a little girl looking at flowers. He saw a human pest in a sacred place. He saw dirt that needed to be cleaned. He walked up behind Lily and pulled out his weapon. It was called a neural disruptor. It was meant for dangerous criminals. It was never meant to be used on children. But Kethfer did not care. He set the weapon to its highest level. Then he pointed it at Lily's back and fired. The scream that came from Lily Carter could be heard across the entire station. Nathan was buying supplies when he heard his daughter scream. He dropped everything and ran. He pushed through crowds of aliens. He jumped over crates and boxes. His heart was beating so hard he thought it might explode. When he found Lily, she was lying on the ground. Smoke was rising from her body. Burns covered her skin. Her eyes were closed, and she was not moving. Nathan fell to his knees and gathered his daughter in his arms. He screamed for help. He begged anyone who could hear him. But the aliens just walked past. Some of them looked at him with disgust. Some of them laughed. The Valoran guard, Kethfer, was already walking away. His job was done. One person stopped. She was a human woman named Patricia Moore. She was the human ambassador to the council. She had been visiting the station for meetings. When she saw Nathan holding his burned daughter, her blood turned cold. "Get a medical team here now," she ordered her guards. "And someone tell me what happened." It took 3 hours for the doctors to save Lily's life. She had burns across 40% of her body. The neural disruptor had damaged her nerves. She would survive, but she would carry scars forever. She would feel pain that would never fully go away. Ambassador Patricia Moore sat in the hospital room and watched Lily sleep. Nathan sat beside his daughter's bed, holding her small hand. He had not spoken since the doctors finished their work. His eyes were red from crying. His hands were shaking with anger and grief. "I want to know who did this," Nathan said finally. His voice was quiet and dangerous. "I want to know why," Patricia nodded slowly. "I will find out. I promise you." She kept her promise. Within 6 hours, she knew everything. She knew about Kethfer. She knew he had set his weapon to maximum power on purpose. She knew he had smiled while he hurt Lily. The security recordings showed everything. He had enjoyed it. He had hurt a little girl and he had enjoyed it. Patricia sent a formal complaint to the council chambers. This was the proper way to handle things. This was what diplomats were supposed to do. She asked for justice. She asked for the guard to be punished. She asked for an apology. 3 days later, she got her answer. The council called her to the great chamber. It was a massive room made of black stone. The 7 leaders of the council sat on tall thrones that looked down at her. She felt very small standing before them. That was the point. The room was designed to make visitors feel small and weak. High Arbiter Kexton of the Valoran Dominion spoke first. His voice was deep and cold. "We have reviewed your complaint, Ambassador. The guard acted within council law. The human child entered sacred space. The punishment was correct." Patricia could not believe what she was hearing. She is a child. She did not know your laws. She did not understand. "Ignorance is not a defense," Kexton replied. "Perhaps humans should teach their young to behave properly. This matter is closed." Patricia stood there for a long moment. She looked at each of the 7 council leaders. The Valorans with their crystal skin, the Tethkai with their many eyes, the Jerdan covered in hard armor. They all looked at her like she was nothing. Like Lily was nothing. Like humans were nothing. "Very well," Patricia said quietly. "I understand your position." She turned and walked out of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed against the stone floor. The council leaders watched her go with satisfied expressions. They thought they had put the humans in their place. They thought this was the end. They were wrong. As Patricia walked back to the human section of the station, she noticed something strange. Human traders were packing their goods. Human families were loading their belongings onto ships. Human soldiers were speaking quietly with serious faces. Everyone was moving. Everyone was preparing. Her communication device buzzed. She answered it and heard a voice she recognized. Admiral Samuel Grant, commander of the United Human Fleet. "Ambassador Moore," he said, "I have been informed of the situation. I want you to know that we are mobilizing." Patricia stopped walking. Her heart began to beat faster. "Mobilizing? Admiral, what are you planning?" "The council hurt one of our children, Ambassador. They smiled while they did it, and then they told us it was our fault." The Admiral's voice was calm but hard as steel. "We are going to teach them that humans protect their own, no matter the cost." Patricia closed her eyes. She thought about Lily lying in that hospital bed. She thought about the guard who had smiled. She thought about the council leaders who had dismissed a burned child like she was garbage. "What do you need from me, Admiral?" she asked. "Buy us time. 3 days. After that, you should leave the station." Patricia took a deep breath. Understood. She ended the call and looked out a window at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was gathering its strength. Somewhere out there, a storm was building. The council had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. They had never known fear. That was about to change. Admiral Samuel Grant was 63 years old. He had gray hair and a face covered with lines from years of worry and command. He had served in the human fleet for 40 years. He had fought pirates. He had protected colonies. He had faced every danger the universe could throw at him. But he had never done what he was about to do now. He stood on the bridge of the carrier Washington. It was the largest ship humanity had ever built. Through the windows, he could see hundreds of other ships gathering around him. Destroyers, cruisers, fighters, transports. They kept coming, jumping out of hyperspace one after another. It was the biggest military force humans had ever put together, his second in command. Commander Lisa Park walked up to him with a datapad. She was young, only 35, but she was one of the smartest officers Grant had ever known. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes were sharp and focused. "Admiral," she said, "all evacuation ships have left Council space. Every human civilian is either out or on their way out." Grant nodded slowly. "In the Council? What are they doing?" "They think we are running away. Their news channels are calling it a human retreat. They are laughing at us." Grant smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Let them laugh. They will stop laughing soon enough." Across the galaxy, on Velos Station, Ambassador Patricia Moore was preparing for her final meeting with the Council. She had not slept in 2 days. She had spent every hour helping human families escape. She had watched ships leave one after another, carrying thousands of people away from council space. Now it was almost time for her to leave too. But first, she had one last job to do. She put on her best diplomatic uniform. She looked at herself in the mirror. She was 52 years old, with gray streaks in her brown hair. She had spent 20 years of her life trying to build peace between humans and the council. 20 years of smiling at creatures who looked down on her. 20 years of accepting insults with grace. That was over now. She walked into the council chamber one last time. The 7 rulers sat on their thrones, looking down at her with the same arrogance they always showed. They thought she was coming to apologize. They thought she was coming to beg for forgiveness. Ambassador Moore, High Arbiter, Kexon said with a thin smile. We have noticed that your species is leaving council space. It seems humans have finally learned their place. Patricia looked up at him. Her face showed no fear. Her voice was steady and calm. You misunderstand, she said. We are not retreating. We are evacuating our civilians. The chamber went quiet. The council leaders looked at each other with confusion. Evacuating? Kexton leaned forward on his throne. Explain what you mean, human. Patricia reached into her bag and pulled out a small crystal. She placed it on the speaking podium in front of her. The crystal began to glow, and a holographic message appeared above it. This is humanity's formal response to the attack on Lily Carter, Patricia said. You have 72 hours to remove all council ships, soldiers, and workers from the Velos system. If you do not leave, we will consider it an act of war. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Kexton began to laugh. It was a cold, cruel sound that echoed through the chamber. You threaten the council? He said, still laughing. You insignificant insects. We have been ruling the stars since before your species learned to walk upright. We have crushed 100 races who thought they could challenge us. You are nothing. The other council leaders joined in the laughter. The Tethkai made clicking sounds of amusement. The Jordan slapped their armored legs. They all thought it was the funniest thing they had ever heard. Patricia waited for them to stop laughing. Then she spoke again. 300 years ago, my species nearly destroyed itself in a terrible war. Millions died. Cities burned. We came very close to ending our own existence. She paused, letting her words sink in. We learned something from that experience. We learned that some actions cannot be forgiven. We learned that some lines cannot be crossed. We learned that when someone hurts our children, we do not stop until they pay for it. Kexton waved his hand dismissively. Pretty words from a weak species. You have no power here. Your tiny fleet is nothing compared to our forces. Patricia turned to leave. At the door, she stopped and looked back over her shoulder. The guard who burned Lily Carter, she said quietly. Our intelligence officers confirmed something. He smiled while he did it. Enjoyed hurting a 9-year-old girl. She met Kexton's eyes directly. You should not have let him smile. And she walked out and did not look back. 40-8 hours later, every human had left council space. The stations and planets that had once been full of human traders, workers, and families were empty. It was like humans had never been there at all. The council was not worried. In fact, they were pleased. They thought they had finally gotten rid of an annoying pest. They went back to their normal business, ruling their empire like they had for thousands of years. On the human side of the border, things were very different. Admiral Grant stood before a holographic display that showed the entire human fleet. 400 warships were now gathered at the edge of council space. 12 carrier groups. 90,000 men and women, all of them volunteers who had asked to be part of this mission. Admiral Commander Park said, We have a message from Earth. The President wants to speak with you. Grant nodded and activated the communication system. The face of President Diana Cole appeared on the screen. She was a strong woman with dark skin and kind eyes that could turn hard as stone when needed. Admiral Grant, she said, I want to confirm that you understand what you are about to do. If we attack the Council, there may be no going back. This could mean war on a scale humanity has never seen. Grant took a deep breath. I understand, Madam President. But with respect, I also understand what happens if we do nothing. Today they burned a little girl and laughed about it. Tomorrow, they might do worse. If we do not draw a line here, they will never stop treating us like animals. President Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. The government stands behind you, Admiral. The people stand behind you. Do what must be done. Yes, Madam President. The communication ended. Grant turned to face his bridge crew. They were all looking at him, waiting. Some of them were scared. Some of them were angry. All of them were ready. In 6 hours, we will enter Council space, Grant said. We will be outgunned. We will be outnumbered. The Council has been fighting wars for 12,000 years, and we have been in space for only 300. He paused. But they have forgotten something important. They have forgotten what it means to fight for something you love. He looked out the window at the stars ahead. They hurt one of our children. They laughed when we asked for justice. Now we will teach them that humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. And humanity never, ever abandons its own. Commander Park stepped up beside him. Fleet is ready, Admiral. All ships report green. Grant nodded once. Then let us begin. The human fleet began to move forward, jumping into hyperspace one ship at a time. The stars stretched into lines of light as they accelerated toward Council space. Toward Velos. Toward the beings who had hurt a little girl and thought there would be no price to pay. The storm was coming. The Council had no idea what was about to hit them. The Council was not worried. Why would they be? They'd ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. They had crushed rebellions. It destroyed entire civilizations. The idea that humans could threaten them was laughable. Admiral. Kexroth of the Valoran fleet was in command of the defenses around Velos Station. He was a decorated warrior who had won many battles. His fleet consisted of 200 warships, including 3 massive battle stations. Each battle station was the size of a small moon. They had weapons that could destroy a planet. They had shields that could stop almost any attack. When his officers told him that the human fleet was approaching, he was not concerned. How many ships? He asked. 400, Admiral, mostly smaller vessels. They have 12 carriers, but nothing that matches our battle stations. Kexroth smiled. So they send their entire military to die. Foolish creatures. This will be over quickly. He ordered his fleet to form a defensive line around Velos Station. The 3 battle stations took the center position. Hundreds of smaller ships spread out around them. It was a standard council formation. It's the same formation that had won 1,000 battles over thousands of years. Meanwhile, on the Washington, Admiral Grant was studying the enemy position. They have formed up exactly as I expected, he said to Commander Park. 3 battle stations in the center. Support ships spread around them in a wide arc. Their firepower is massive, Park said, looking at the tactical display. Those battle stations alone could destroy half our fleet. If they could hit us, Grant replied, but they will not be able to hit us. Not the way we are going to fight. He turned to face the other officers on the bridge. They were nervous. He could see it in their faces. They were about to fight an enemy that had never lost a major battle. An enemy with bigger ships, better weapons, and thousands of years of experience. Grant understood their fear. But he also knew something they did not. He had spent 30 years studying council tactics. He knew how they thought. He knew how they fought. And he knew their weakness. The council has been winning battles the same way for millennia, he said. They form up in tight formations, use their superior firepower to crush their enemies. They expect their opponents to fight the same way. He smiled. We are not going to fight the same way. He activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is Admiral Grant. In a few minutes, we will engage the enemy. I know many of you are afraid. I know the odds look bad. But I want you to remember something. He paused, thinking of Lily Carter lying in that hospital bed. We are not here because we want glory. No, we are not here because we want conquest. We are here because someone hurt one of our children. We are here because when you hurt a human, you hurt all of us. We are here because the universe needs to know that humanity protects its own. On every ship in the fleet, sailors stopped what they were doing to listen. The council thinks we are weak. They think we are primitive. They think they can hurt us without consequences. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we show them what happens when you make humanity angry. Grant took a deep breath. All ships, prepare for combat. We jump in 2 minutes. The fleet jumped into the Velo system like a swarm of angry bees. But unlike the neat formations the Council expected, the human ships came out scattered and chaotic. They were spread across a wide area, moving in seemingly random patterns. Admiral Kexroth watched from his command ship with confusion. What are they doing? They have no formation at all. This is madness. His weapons officer spoke up. Admiral, should we fire? Destroy them. Council ships opened up with everything they had. Massive energy beams shot across space. Missiles flew in deadly swarms. The firepower was incredible, enough to destroy 100 worlds. But the human ships were not where the weapons were aimed. They jinked and weaved, changing direction constantly. The chaotic pattern that looked like madness was actually a carefully planned dance. Every ship knew exactly where to move. Every pilot had practiced these maneuvers 1,000 times. The first volley from the Council fleet hit mostly empty space. Impossible, Kexroth whispered. Retarget. Fire again. They fired again and again. Each time, most of their shots missed. The human ships were too fast, too unpredictable. The Council targeting systems, designed to track ships that moved in straight lines, could not keep up with enemies that never stopped moving. Then the human fighters. Launched, the Council had never seen anything like it. Thousands of small craft poured out of the human carriers. They were tiny compared to Council fighters, no bigger than transport shuttles. But they were fast. Incredibly fast. And there were so many of them, the fighters did not attack in waves or lines. They attacked from everywhere at once. They came from above and below, from left and right, from angles that should have been impossible. They swarmed around the Council ships like insects around a wounded animal. The battle stations tried to target them, but their massive weapons were designed to destroy other battle stations. They were too slow to track the tiny human craft. It was like trying to swat flies with a hammer. Admiral, a panicked officer, called out, "Our support ships are taking heavy damage. They are requesting permission to retreat." Kexroth could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet, the finest in the Council, was being torn apart by primitive humans. This was not possible. This could not be happening, but it was happening. On the Washington, Admiral Grant watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 complete, he said. All capital ships move to Phase 2. Target Battle Station Alpha. Everything we have. The human carriers and destroyers stopped their chaotic dance. For a brief moment, they formed into tight groups. Then they all fired at the same target. 12 ships focused all their weapons on the nearest battle station. The Council ships' shields held for 3 seconds. Then they failed. The human weapons punched through the hole like needles through paper. Explosions rippled across the massive station. Then, with a flash of light that could be seen across the system, Battle Station Alpha exploded. The shockwave knocked nearby ships away. Debris scattered in all directions. A station that had stood for 3,000 years was gone in an instant. Silence fell across the Council fleet. Their crews stared at their screens in disbelief. A battle station was supposed to be invincible. A battle station was supposed to be the ultimate weapon. And the humans had destroyed one in less than 5 minutes. All ships, retreat, Kexroth ordered, his voice shaking. Fall back to secondary positions. But the retreat was not orderly. Panic spread through the Council fleet. Ships that had never known fear began running for their lives. They crashed into each other in their rush to escape. They forgot their training. They forgot their pride. They only wanted to get away from the human swarm. Commander Park looked at the tactical display with amazement. Admiral, they are running. The entire Council fleet is running. Grant nodded slowly. Then it is time to finish this. All ships, pursue. Do not let them regroup. The human fleet chased the retreating Council ships across the system. They destroyed dozens more before the survivors finally jumped into hyperspace and escaped. When the battle was over, the humans had lost 47 ships. The Council had lost 112, including 2 of their 3 battle stations. Velo Station itself surrendered without a fight. The crew had watched their entire fleet get destroyed. They had no desire to share that fate. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge, as the Washington moved into orbit around the station. The stars were full of debris and wreckage. The council flag that had flown over Velos for 10,000 years was gone, replaced by the blue and green of Earth. "Get me a communication channel to the council chambers," Grant said. "It is time to tell them what we want." Commander Park nodded. "Yes, Admiral." "What should I tell them?" Grant looked out at the battlefield. Somewhere out there, 47 human ships had been destroyed. Thousands of human sailors had died. He thought of each one. He thought of their families. He thought of the price they had paid. Then he thought of Lily Carter, lying in a hospital bed, covered in scars because a guard thought it was funny to hurt a human child. "Tell them," Grant said quietly, "that humanity has come to collect a debt, and we will not leave until it is paid." The council chambers had never been so quiet. The 7 rulers sat on their thrones, but they did not look powerful anymore. They looked scared. Their advisors stood behind them, whispering nervously. Guards lined the walls, but even they seemed uncertain. The confidence that had filled this room for 12,000 years was gone. High Arbiter Kexton sat perfectly still, staring at the screen in front of him. It showed the Velos system. It showed the debris of his fleet floating through space. It showed Velos Station, which had belonged to the Council for 10,000 years, now flying human colors. "This is impossible," he whispered. "How did they do this?" No one answered him. No one knew what to say. The screen flickered, and the face of Admiral Samuel Grant appeared. He looked tired. His uniform was wrinkled. There were dark circles under his eyes. But his voice was strong and steady. "Council leaders," he said, "I am Admiral Samuel Grant of the United Human Fleet. As you can see, the Velos system is now under human control. Your fleet has been destroyed. Your station has surrendered. The situation has changed." Kexton found his voice. "You have won a single battle, human. We have 1,000 fleets spread across the galaxy. We will crush you. We will hunt down every human in existence and destroy them." Grant did not react to the threat. He simply nodded slowly. "I expected you to say something like that. So let me show you something." The screen changed. It now showed a different star system. The planet in the center was beautiful, covered in silver oceans and purple forests. It was Valora Prime, the ancient homeworld of the Valoran Dominion. Kexthon's homeworld, the place where his family lived. Around the planet, like wolves circling a wounded animal, was a human fleet. "That is our first armada," Grant said. 80 capital ships, 300 support vessels. They arrived at Valora Prime 6 hours ago. They are holding position just outside weapons range. Kexton felt his blood turn cold. His homeworld. His people. His entire civilization was under threat. He would not dare, he said, but his voice was shaking. "I would not want to," Grant replied, "but I will if I must. You need to understand something about humans, Arbiter. When we fight, we do not fight for territory or power. We fight for our people. We fight for our children. And when someone hurts our children, we do not stop until the threat is gone. Completely gone." The other council leaders were talking frantically among themselves. The Tethkai representative was demanding that his own homeworld be protected. The Jirdan were arguing about military options. Chaos was spreading through the chamber. Grant continued speaking. "I have demands. You will listen to them carefully. First, all council military forces will withdraw from the systems bordering human space. Second, all human prisoners held in council facilities will be released immediately. Third, the council will pay compensation to every human family that has been harmed under council law." Kexon tried to interrupt, but Grant kept talking. "Fourth, and most important, the Valoran guard who attacked Lily Carter will be turned over to human custody. He will face trial in a human court. He will be punished under human law." "Never!" Kexton shouted. "We do not surrender our people to lesser species. We do not bow to threats." Grant's expression did not change. "Then let me be very clear about what happens next. The first armada at Valora Prime is waiting for my orders. If those orders do not come within 48 hours, they will begin their attack. Your homeworld will burn, Arbiter. Every city, every village, every last trace of Valoran civilization will be turned to dust. The chamber fell silent. And after Valora Prime, Grant continued, we will move to the next homeworld, and the next, and the next. We will not stop until every council species understands that humanity is not to be threatened, that our children are not to be harmed, that we are not weak, we are not primitive, we are not insects to be crushed. He leaned forward, his eyes burning with cold fire. You have ruled this galaxy by making other species afraid of you. You have taught them that resistance is pointless, that the council is all-powerful, that you can do whatever you want without consequences. Grant shook his head slowly. That ends today. From this moment forward, there is a species in this galaxy that you should be afraid of. A species that will not bow. A species that will not break. A species that will fight for its children with every weapon it has, no matter how long it takes, no matter what the cost. He straightened up. You have 48 hours. Use them wisely. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one in the council chamber spoke. Then slowly, the other species began to look at the Valorans. The Tethkai representative spoke first. Perhaps, he said carefully, we should consider the human demands. Kexthon spun around to face him. You would have us surrender. You would have us give up our dignity. I would have us survive, the Tethkai replied. Look at what they did at Velos. They destroyed 2 battle stations. They captured a station we have held for 10,000 years. And that was with only a fraction of their military, pointed at the screen. They have another fleet at your homeworld. How many more fleets do they have? How many more ships can they build? The Girdon representative stepped forward. The Tethkai is right. We underestimated these humans. We thought they were weak because they are young. But young does not mean weak. It means hungry. It means angry. It means they have something to prove. Kexthon looked around the chamber. He saw fear in the eyes of his fellow council members, fear that he had never seen before. Fear of humans. Of the primitive creatures they had dismissed as pests. This is madness, he said. We cannot let them dictate terms to us. We cannot let them win. They've already won, the Tethkai replied quietly. The only question now is how much we lose. On Velo Station, Admiral Grant was meeting with his officers. Commander Park had compiled damage reports from the battle. The numbers were better than expected, but they were still painful. 47 ships destroyed, she said. 8,312 casualties. 2,040 dead. Grant closed his eyes for a moment. Each of those numbers was a person. Someone's child. Someone's parent. Someone's friend. They had volunteered for this mission knowing they might not come back. They had given their lives so that humans could stand tall in a universe that wanted them to kneel. Make sure every family is notified, Grant said. Make sure they know their loved ones died as heroes. Yes, Admiral. Grant walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the council was debating his demands. He knew they were afraid. He had seen it in Kexton's eyes. For the first time in 12,000 years, the mighty council was afraid. But Grant did not feel triumphant. He felt tired. He felt sad. He had not wanted this war. He had not wanted to threaten innocent civilians on Valora Prime. He had not wanted to send thousands of his own people to their deaths. But some things were more important than comfort. Some things were more important than safety. Some things were worth fighting for no matter the cost. He thought about Lily Carter. He thought about her lying in that hospital bed, covered in burns, crying for her father. He thought about the guard who had hurt her, smiling as he pulled the trigger. That smile was why they were here. That smile was why 2,000 humans had died. That smile was why. Grant had brought the fury of humanity to the council's doorstep, because there are some things you cannot let go. Some crimes you cannot forgive. Some lines that once crossed demand a response. The council had crossed that line when they hurt a little girl. Now they would learn the price. The 48 hours passed slowly on Valora Prime. Millions of Valorans looked up at the sky and saw the human fleet hanging there like a threat made real. They had never known fear like this. Their species had been conquerors for 12,000 years. They had made other races tremble. Now, they were the ones trembling. In the council chambers, the debate raged on. Kexthon argued for war. He said the council could not show weakness. He said giving in to human demands would encourage other species to rebel. He said it was better to fight and die than to surrender their pride. But the other council leaders were not listening anymore. They had seen the battle reports from Velos. They had watched 2 battle stations. The most powerful weapons in the galaxy get destroyed in minutes. They had seen their undefeated fleet run away in terror. The Tethkai representative finally stood up and said what everyone was thinking. Arbiter Kexton. This war was started because a Valoran guard hurt a human child. It was started because you and your people laughed when the humans asked for justice. It was started because of Valoran arrogance and Valoran cruelty. He turned to face the other council members. I will not let my homeworld burn because of Valoran mistakes. I am voting to accept the human demands. Any species that votes against me will stand alone. One by one, the other council leaders voted. The Jardan voted to accept. The Kethril voted to accept. The Vindari voted to accept. Soon, Kexthon was standing alone, surrounded by species that had once been his allies. This is betrayal, he said, his voice breaking. You are betraying everything the council stands for. No, the Tethkai replied. We are surviving. Something the council has always been good at. Perhaps it is time the Valorans learn that skill as well. 36 hours after Admiral Grant delivered his ultimatum, the council sent their response. They accepted all demands. All military forces would withdraw from human border systems. All human prisoners would be released. Compensation would be paid to affected families, and the guard, Kethfer, would be turned over to human custody. Ambassador Patricia Moore received the surrender personally. She stood in the council chamber, where she had been dismissed and ignored so many times before. But this time, she was not alone. Admiral Grant stood beside her, along with a dozen human soldiers in full combat armor. The council leaders would not meet her eyes. They stared at the floor, at the walls, at anything except the human woman who had warned them this would happen. The council accepts your terms, Kexton said. His voice was flat and empty, like a man who had lost everything. The guard will be delivered to your custody within the hour. The other conditions will be met within 30 days. Patricia nodded. There is one more thing. Humanity wants a seat on this council. Equal voting rights. Equal respect. We will not be treated as a lesser species anymore. Kexton's head snapped up. That is not possible. The council is for elder species only. Humans are too young, too primitive. Grant stepped forward. Your definition of primitive seems to be changing rapidly. Perhaps your definition of elder should change too. Chamber was silent. Then the Tethkai spoke. I vote to accept humanity into the council. They have proven themselves worthy. One by one, the other species voted yes. Kexton was the last to vote. He stood there for a long moment, his crystal skin reflecting the lights of the chamber. Then, with a heavy sigh, he nodded. The Valoran Dominion votes yes. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Council. 6 months later, the Velos Accords were signed. They marked the beginning of a new era in galactic history. For the first time, an elder species had been forced to share power with a younger race. For the first time, the council had been challenged and had lost Kethfer. The guard who had hurt Lily Carter was tried in a human court. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Witnesses testified about what he had done. Security footage showed him smiling as he fired the weapon. Medical experts described the damage to Lily's body. He was found guilty of assault against a child. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release. He would spend the rest of his days in a small cell, surrounded by humans who knew exactly what he had done. On the day of the sentencing, Lily Carter was there. She was 10 years old now. Her scars had healed as much as they ever would. She would carry them for the rest of her life. But she stood tall beside her father, watching as the guard was led away in chains. He does not look so scary now, she said quietly. Nathan put his arm around his daughter. He never was scary, sweetheart. He was just a bully. And bullies always look small when someone finally stands up to them. Admiral Grant retired 1 year after the war. He had done what he set out to do, and he had no desire to do it again. He returned to Earth and took a teaching position at the Naval Academy. He taught young officers about tactics and strategy. But mostly, he taught them about why they fought. "We do not fight for territory," he would tell his students. "We do not fight for power. We fight for each other. We fight for the people we love. We fight because there are some things more important than survival." He kept a photograph on his desk until the day he died. It showed Lily Carter, smiling and happy, standing on the bridge of the Washington during her visit to the fleet. Behind her, through the window, you could see the stars that humanity had claimed as their own. Ambassador Patricia Moore became humanity's permanent representative to the Council. She served in that role for 20 years. She watched as humans spread across the galaxy, building colonies, making friends, and sometimes making enemies. But no one ever again made the mistake of thinking humans were weak. She was asked once by a young journalist what she thought was the most important lesson of the Velos War. "The Council ruled by fear," she said. "They made other species afraid of them. They thought that was power. But real power is not making others fear you. Real power is being willing to stand up when someone hurts the people you love." She smiled, thinking of Lily. Humans are not the oldest species in the galaxy. We are not the strongest or the smartest. But we have something that the Council forgot how to feel. We have love. We love our families. We love our children. We love each other. And when someone threatens that love, we become the most dangerous thing in the universe. The journalist asked one more question. "Do you think the Council truly respects humanity now?" Patricia thought about it for a moment. "I think they fear us. And for some of them, that will never change. But fear is a beginning. It is the first step toward understanding. The Council feared us, and that fear forced them to pay attention. Now, they are learning that we are not just warriors. We are builders. We are dreamers. We are friends." She looked out the window at the stars. "Give it another 1,000 years. By then, they might actually like us." On Earth, in a small house in a quiet town, Lily Carter grew up. She went to school. She made friends. She fell in love, got married, and had children of her own. The scars on her body faded but never completely disappeared. They were part of her story, part of who she was. Sometimes, when her children asked about the scars, she would tell them the story. She would tell them about Velos Station. She would tell them about the guard who hurt her. She would tell them about how Hum,